Hey, this is Eddie from Gamersfire.com, and today I am bringing you my first impression review of Battlefield Hardline. So, as usual, I'm going to start off with my experience launching the game. Now, this is something that should be very simple, but lately it just never is with games. What happened with this one is that it just would not launch from Origin. I had it all downloaded and installed, and I went to my game library and clicked play on it, and nothing happened. And I don't mean it would start and then crash or anything like that. I just mean the buttons seemed to do absolutely nothing. So what I tried was I went to Google, and I just searched for Battlelog, which is the site that launching the game starts up anyway. And here you can see it comes up with Battlelog, pick your game. You go there, pick Hardline, and then you have to sign in with Origin. But once you have, then you have everything you need here. There's Quick Match and Server Browser, and this way you can jump right into a game and get going. And you can also check on things like your stats, loadout, how to customize your emblem, really customize your profile and get into all the details there. And really, compared to other issues I've had launching different games, that really wasn't that bad. It was a pretty quick fix, and once I figured it out, the game runs pretty smooth and consistent overall, and the whole experience is actually pretty easy to customize your character and get into a game. So let's just move on to the next topic, which is of course going to be the graphics. Overall, this game looks pretty good, especially the lighting and the water stood out to me. There are these little droplets of water all over most of the environment that really seem to interact with everything in a very natural way, and the lighting is very realistic and immersive. The textures all seem to be pretty high quality, nothing stood out as being bland or flat, and overall it creates a very immersive feel, but this doesn't really stand out as being especially better than other games as far as graphics go. It's kind of just on the good side of average. The real area they did well, though, is that the game runs great. There are other games I have that look similar, but don't run this well on my PC. This defaulted to high settings and just runs perfectly smooth. The level of destruction in the game and the detail in the destruction really does stand out, though. Doors will fly apart, holes get punched through walls, cover chips away. It really even has an effect on the gameplay because it forces you to keep moving and thinking on your feet, and it discourages camping and other tactics like that. So, speaking of the gameplay, let's move into that area. So at first I decided to try out a little bit of the campaign, considering I knew that once I was in the multiplayer I wouldn't want to stop with that and switch back over to single player. So I played the first couple missions, and the best way I can describe this is just plain boring. Most of the time I spent in the passenger seat of the car or walking around listening to someone talk. There was some stealth gameplay, but honestly it felt like it wasn't possible to fail, so it was just slower walking. The cutscenes look pretty good with some impressive animation, but again, they don't really stand out from other games. And that's really all there is to say about the campaign. It really shows that just not as much work was put into that. So let's move on to the part that everyone really cares about, and that's why this part got all the work put into it, the multiplayer. The multiplayer really feels like old Battlefield, but on new maps and more chaotic. In some ways this is great. With all the destructible environments and the amount of action going on in any one match, you will feel your heart start to race. But there are some things that should have been rethought that weren't. For example, the squad system. When this system was introduced to the franchise, it allowed a lot more control of tactics, as each small group of players on the team could get their own individual objectives. But since the gameplay has sped up, there's just not enough time to manage these types of tactics. It's great to spawn on your squad and to move with them through the map, but before you can really decide on a tactic or figure out what your squad should be doing, you will end up in a firefight or just dead. The area where Hardline really stands out from other modern multiplayer games, though, is that there's such a good variety of game types to choose from. The new main focus is the heist mode, which takes some figuring out. Each map has objectives that the criminals are trying to get while the cops defend them, but until you learn the maps, you really have no idea what you should be doing. I had fun playing this, but I think this is a mode that will get better and better the more you play it, and you figure out what exactly you're supposed to be doing each step of the way on each individual map. Hotwire is probably my favorite new game mode. It just takes the standard Battlefield Conquest game type, but the control points are now cars that you have to drive fast in order to gain the tickets. It's genius. They just took the old faithful game type everyone loves and added speed and constant movement to it. It's fast, it's intense, you have no idea what's going on, and leaning out the passenger window of a car going 100 miles per hour while firing an assault rifle at the enemy cars is unbelievably fun. Blood money involves grabbing handfuls of cash and bringing them back to your base in a CTF-reminiscent mad dash. And rescue forces you to think tactically as the criminals hold hostages and the cops try to save them, all with no respawns. Overall though, I found very few people were playing these game types, and that awesome intensity I had been experiencing was gone. Standard team deathmatch is back with the potential to go up to 64 players total, which creates the real feeling of being in a giant battle scene from a movie with explosions going off just about every 10 seconds or so. And finally, there's the classic Conquest mode where you fight for control points across the map. I only played the Conquest Large because a giant battle between two teams of 32 players each across a gigantic map was just too awesome to pass up. This is the same game type that we all know and love back to Battlefield 1942, and I think it's great that they decided to throw this in there with everything else the same way it always was without any changes that could have potentially messed it up. The next point I'd like to talk about is the audio. The sound design is something that has always really been well done in the Battlefield games, and that is definitely still true here. All the sound effects have this powerful low end that makes the guns feel threatening, and the explosions are huge, and the cars feel powerful. And that's all great, but this isn't something that's really been improved upon at all since earlier games. The next area to cover is the controls. Overall, the controls seem pretty solid, default key bindings make enough sense to remember, and everything is customizable. The aiming felt a bit loose to me though. I'm going to continue messing around with my sensitivity and DPI settings, but overall it felt like there was some sort of disconnect between me and the character, and this led to some embarrassingly bad aim. Not to mention a lot of just simply spazzing the f*** out. Driving worked well for me. I felt like I was in control of the vehicle and it was fun to really push them up to the high speeds, especially with the jumps that are available in the game and things like that, and it's always great to be sitting in a car in first person when you run over another player. So what's my first impression? It's fun. I'll be playing a fair amount of it because I love intense, fast-paced shooters, but it really doesn't stand out to me as anything special. It's a good game and I'm definitely going to play enough to get my money's worth out of it, but overall it doesn't really have any lasting value to me, and I really don't see myself buying any DLC that might come out in the future. If you enjoy fast-paced, intense first-person shooters like I do, then you can go ahead and pick this up, or maybe wait until it goes on sale somewhere. But if you're someone who preferred the slower, slightly more tactical Battlefield gameplay that was in the older games, with the individual squads and the leader of the team who's watching the map and giving the orders to the different squads and figuring out when to use artillery strikes and things like that, this might not be the Battlefield game for you. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, or if you like the idea of watching us all at the Gamersfire team being ridiculous in our own Let's Plays, then hit the subscribe button down at the bottom so you can catch more of our videos as they come out, and check out the videos on the side to see more of what we are all about. Then go to the forums at Gamersfire.com under the community tab, make a profile, and that way you can talk to us about what games you like, if you agree or disagree with the things we're saying in our videos, and you'll find lots of cool people to game with. So go check it out. Bye.